You'll also see that several of the transportation design students did not focus on just vehicle design. They've also gone beyond the artifact to think about issues that are going to be issues that are pending regarding our environment, regarding impact of technology, and the future of transportation design.
Hello, my name is Daniel Couttolenc and I am from Mexico. I did my undergraduate in industrial design back in Mexico, and in CCS I'm in the Master in Transportation Design program, from which I actually graduated a couple weeks ago. Before coming to CCS, I was doing freelance photography, where the theme of my work used to be Mexico. I used to capture images of places or things that are considered old or not attractive, but trying to showcase them in a new way. I have always been interested in making old new, which is what I was trying to do with photography. But in design, making old new, it's much more complicated than that. So I became interested in making long-lasting designs, which are built to last longer. Because today products are becoming disposable, where design is supposed to solve problems and make our lives easier. But the way I see it, many times design is creating necessities we don't really have, creating new products when the previous ones worked perfectly well, being design part of the problem instead of being part of the solution. So the motivation for my thesis was to work in order to be part of that solution. And the topic of my thesis is vehicle design based on a circular economy system, which I call terrestrial. Let me explain. We live in a linear economy where we take, we make, we use, and we dispose, creating a lot of waste at the end and taking a lot of natural resources. As a consequence of this model, we would need 7 planet Earths if the whole world were to consume at the same rate as America does today. So a circular economy system is where things are reused or recycled, so they don't create waste, or at least they don't create as much waste, and the same way taking less amount of resources. A car today has already a high recyclability rate, where 85% of a car today it's already recyclable. But this is actually downcycled, meaning that every time the materials are recycled, they lose properties until someday they're gonna end up in a landfill. The steel out of these cars, it's not gonna be good to be used in a car again. It's gonna be used to make lower quality products. Before a car is even put on the market, it has already created huge amounts of waste and pollution. A car represents only 5% of the raw materials involved in the process of making and developing it. To try and understand the end of the life of a car, I visited junkyards, where I was impressed by the good conditions of these cars. I've never been to a junkyard before, but I had this idea of super old and rusty cars. But later I found out that 10% of the cars received in the junkyard are repaired and sold back, and out of the ones that stay, they have an average of 85% of usable components. But because the car is designed as a whole, the whole car has to be processed for scrappage. The segment I'm targeting is called the LOHAS, which is a rapid growing demographic related to sustainable living. For them, the value of preserving the environment stands higher than the status or the tag price. My design solution is called terrestrial. It is a modular car that is going to be remanufactured at the end of its life. My solution is not about the car itself, but it's about an opportunity to make a more sustainable life cycle. Terrestrial is divided in 4 modules. The first module is a platform. The second is a skeleton. The third one is the skin, which are the outer body panels, and the fourth one is the interior. These 4 modules work independently from one another, being able to be repaired and upgraded to new designs and technologies separately, without limiting the lifespan of one another. Each of these 4 modules is subdivided into modules to maximize the lifespan of each component. This is how the current life cycle of a vehicle works. where at the end of the 10-year average lifespan of the car, it's sent to a junkyard where it's going to be crushed and shredded, and the recycled material, as I mentioned earlier, it's not going to be good to be used in a car again. So it goes in a spiral until someday it will end up in a landfill. And this is how the proposed life cycle of terrestrial works, where because the car is designed modularly, it's easy to repair and upgrade, which will expand the lifespan of the car. After, when it finally reaches the end of its life, the company will buy back the car, where the car is going to be disassembled. Components, 70% of components are going to be processed for remanufacturing, and cars are going to be assembled with these remanufactured components. This way, cars will have a second life. This is an exploded view of the 4 modules and how it looks assembled. This will create a new segment between new and used cars, having the reliability of a new car, but at a much lower price, having a wide range of possibilities that can adapt to different needs and budgets, having cars that are built with 100% new components and cars that are built with 100% remanufactured components, and all the possibilities in between. The benefits of terrestrial is an increased lifespan, where in the typical car average lifespan is 10 years, with terrestrial the average lifespan of components is 30 years, a reduction in waste and pollution up to 1/3, and a high residual value, because in a way the company will be selling several times the same component. At the end of their life, the car will have a high residual value up to 30% of the initial purchase price. So instead of being an assembly line, it's an assembly cycle. Where the old car goes in, the cars are going to be disassembled, components are going to be processed for remanufactured, and new cars are going to be assembled with remanufactured components. That's the end of my presentation. Thank you.
The transportation design program, the MFA degree there, really takes further the undergraduate training, the rigor and the discipline that's applied at CCS, and takes it to the next level of strategic thinking, consumer research, and the business perspective. It's where the design, business, as well as technology intersect.
Hi, my name is Shabtai Hirshberg, and before I present my thesis, I'd like to introduce myself. I was born in Israel, and I did my undergraduate in industrial design in the Hadassah College in Jerusalem. After that, I worked for 2 years in a large plastic manufacturer called Keter. During my work over there, I realized that I would like to have a larger and greater design impact, and I pursued this passion, and I came to study in the College for Creative Studies in transportation design. My thesis topic is the redesign of a commercial aircraft. Looking at today's commercial aviation, there are 4 main concerns: the comfort of the passengers, the aircraft configuration, the fuel consumption, and the hub capacity. Looking at today, there's not much comfort on the aircrafts. Aircraft scored lowest among 47 industries according to the evaluation of the American Customer Satisfaction Index. Configuration. Looking at the structure of the aircraft today, it has been the same and consistent with the pipe and wing configuration ever since. Fuel consumption. Everyone is aware today to the rise in fuel prices and the gas we need to pay. But looking further to the forecast, things don't get much better. Prices are continuing to rise, and by 2030 they're expected to reach the average of $120 per barrel. So let's see some of the airlines industry answers to this topic. They're restricting baggage. Airlines are flying slower to conserve fuel. They're coming up with new seats so they can seat more people in the aircraft. Some airlines are completely replacing the seats inside the aircraft with narrower seats. And next is coming up bathrooms where you need to pay to use them. Hub capacity. Everyone knows today the huge traffic and the delays, but things aren't getting much better. With the growth of the global middle class and the rise of world GDP, flights and air traffic are expected to double their size by 2030. So this is what hub capacity might look like in 2030. So, looking at future designs, we can see that not much is done to approach this issue, mainly focusing on fuel and air efficiency. Incorporating all my research, I came up with a new design. As you can see, it has a unique and new different fuselage shape. Stepping back a moment, if we're looking at a traditional aircraft and the pipe and wings configuration, the way it works is the fuselage is dragging the aircraft down and the wing is creating the lift. In the new aircraft, you have the fuselage shaped as an aerofoil. So basically, instead of having the fuselage dragging the aircraft down, as we have in the old aircraft, the fuselage is actually contributing to the general lift of the aircraft. This has been exploited before in a couple older versions, and this provides us with a whole new range of opportunities. Looking at the aircraft from the top, you can notice that it's much wider as a result of the lifting body, and this provides us with a much wider seating opportunity, so there's much more leg room and space to sit inside the aircraft. This is what the aircraft might look like from inside. And this is when it comes in for landing. So looking at the section of this aircraft, you can see that there's a wide passage for entering the aircraft, the jetway, and then the seating design is more of a stadium seating. So every seat is just a little bit lower than the seat in front of it, so everyone has a window basically to view out. In today's aircraft, when you're boarding the aircraft, everyone gets stuck in the bottleneck. In the new design, it would be more flowing, sort of like when you board a ferry. So this is what it would look like when you walk onto an aircraft today, get stuck in the bottleneck, and this is what it would be in the new design. The aircraft has a hybrid engine which provides quiet and cleaner and more efficient flight. This will enable aircrafts to fly and take off from airports that today are closed for night flight. Another addition is the size of the aircraft. The size of the aircraft today restricts aircrafts from landing in small airfields because the aircraft doesn't need such large wings to create the lift. So comparing to aircraft today that are so much larger, this aircraft has the same amount of passengers but has a much smaller side, which will enable it to utilize all these small airfields that today cannot be used. And finally, further looking into the future, these are the large major airport cities, and most of them are located on large bodies of water, which will enable us to utilize water landing in addition to traditional airport landing. So this is what it might look like, air docks based on the edge of the cities. This solution of landing on water is also very useful when coming to retrofit large cities with airports. Instead of having to build the airport an hour or so drive outside of the city, it could be easily retrofitted and built as a dock right outside the city, which would provide much shorter access time into the city. That's the end of the presentation. Thank you very much for listening.